What's going on my fellow fantasy football fans? Another week in the books. Let's talk about some players you should consider adding week 12. Later on in the week, I'll give you some more players based on the Giants Tampa outcome. Make sure you hit the like button and you subscribe to the channel. Let's jump right into it. So, quarterbacks. Two quarterbacks I recommend on this list. Jimmy G has been playing extremely well. He's played extremely well the last 4 games, okay? And he has some great matchups over the next 4 games. He has the Vikings, Seahawks, Bengals, and the Falcons. So if you are struggling at quarterback, Jimmy G should be able to produce 4 more consistent, good fantasy football games where he scores good points. He should be able to get over 20 in all of these games. If not, I'm going to be looking at Jimmy G sideways, but no, I expect him to do it. And right now, he is rostered in a little over 29% of Yahoo leagues, 11.7% of ESPN leagues, and over 84% of sleeper leagues. If nothing else, he's definitely a good play in a superflex league. But if you have a quarterback who is just struggling and not performing, then when you look at the matchups, Jimmy G should be able to help you over the next several weeks. So Jimmy G must add. He's got over 1,000 yards the last 4 games, 6 passing touchdowns and 2 rushing touchdowns. So the numbers speak. Pick him up, pick him up, pick him up. And Cam Newton, he is back in the building. He actually had a solid game for the Panthers. All right. I expect him to be the starting quarterback for the remainder of the season. Darnold, don't expect him to come back this year, but if he does, Newton should be the guy. Although they lost to Washington football team, Cam looked a little bit better. Some of the guys who were playing really well early on for fantasy purposes looked a bit better with Cam out there. Moore obviously got more involved, and then Anderson even got a little bit more action. So they know that Cam going forward should be the guy. He's definitely a dual threat, more of a running threat, which we don't care. As long as he's able to get us the points. We know that if you are considering, say, Darnold, Cam, I'm going to go with Cam, okay? And he is rostered in over 50% of Yahoo leagues, 37% of ESPN leagues, and over 86% of sleeper leagues. And again, if you are not confident in him, you can still use him as an option in super flex leagues, or if you have players who are struggling, you can consider Cam. So if you have the opportunity to pick him up, pick him up. I had someone try to offer me a trade for Cam Newton. He wanted to give me Cam for Chubb. I kindly said, no. I'm going to keep Chubb, all right? Not going to do it. I know I'm struggling at the quarterback spot, but I'm not going to give up Nick Chubb, okay? Now let's talk about a few running backs you should consider adding. Ramondre Stevenson is a must-add. Him and Harris split time. They pretty much split. Stevenson over 30% of the snaps and Harris over 39%. So it's pretty much even. And Stevenson had 2 more rush attempts with 12 compared to Harris's 10. He had more yardage, 69. So he's definitely someone that they trust now. He's not fumbling that ball and he's not missing that assignment. He is making sure that he blocks. So when he has to for Mac Jones. So right now he is rostered in over 58% of Yahoo platforms, 50% of ESPN platforms, and over 93% in sleeper leagues. So he is definitely in the mix. He is playing extremely well, and he's a player that I would definitely consider adding for bye weeks or injuries, or if you have someone who's just not playing well, then he's definitely someone you can consider. If you have Damian Harris, then you know that Stevenson is somebody you should be handcuffing. Jeff Willson. Okay, so he had 19 rush attempts for the 49ers. So what? It wasn't very productive because he only averaged 2.6 yards per carry, which isn't high, and he had 50 yards, but nonetheless, the carries, 19 carries are there. Wish he would have had some more opportunities in the red zone because that would have helped. But nonetheless, 19 carries is extremely high. And pending on what happens with Mitchell, if Mitchell misses another game, then Wilson should be the guy. if Mitchell returns, I feel like because Mitchell has played much better, his yards per carry are much better. He's just a better running back. Mitchell will be the guy. But if Mitchell is out, then Wilson is the guy. He is rostered in over 66% of Yahoo platforms, 48% of ESPN, and over 90% in sleeper leagues, which means it's probability he may not be available in your leagues, or you still have a slight chance. He's available in one of my leagues, so I'm considering him because I do have Mitchell. Now, someone I've been talking about a bit, talked about him before the season started as a breakout player and a deep sleeper. Well, Darnell Mooney showed us that he's got the talent, and then with Allen Robinson being out with a hamstring injury, his value increases a bit more. And you know how hamstring injuries are, so if Allen Robinson has to miss more time, then you already know what's going to happen with Fields and Mooney. And they do have a good rapport. I feel like he has a better rapport with Fields than Robinson does. And he had a great game. Let's talk about the numbers. 16 targets, that's extremely high, especially when you only have 5 receptions. I'm going to say that's a bit more on the quarterback instead of Mooney, just unable to catch 11 receptions. So, still, that's a lot of targets. He had over 121 yards, and he had a touchdown against the Ravens. Over 121 yards and a touchdown against the Ravens is pretty much hard to do. So when you think about that, 121 yards, you're playing a really good defense like the Ravens. Very hard to do, but nonetheless, he was able to do it. He's definitely a player you should consider adding. He's rostered in over 57% of Yahoo leagues, 52% of ESPN leagues, and over 95% of sleeper leagues. So definitely a player that I would add, and I have added him. I actually added him in one of my dynasty leagues because someone dropped him. Although I picked him up over one of my favorites, Crowder, and it worked for me. Even though I didn't win this week because I had some players really just stinking it up big time. He got me over, 28 fantasy points? Somewhere in that vicinity. He had a really good game for me. Another player to consider at the wide receiver spot is Deandre Carter with Washington football team. Heineke has been looking for him. He is obviously the number 2 wide receiver now. When you have other players out like Samuel, and then you got Logan Thomas still out, he is definitely a nice option in deep leagues. He has really deep leagues, okay? Or if you're looking for a DFS play, which it's not going to cost you much because you're investing more of your money in the higher tier players, then he's someone you can consider adding, okay? He's had a touchdown in the last 3 games. Understand he is definitely touchdown dependent, but nonetheless should be able to help your team. He's available, y'all, but he's rostered in 3% of Yahoo leagues, 1.4% of ESPN leagues, and 29% of sleeper leagues, which means he is out there and he's available. He has played well the last 4 games, and again with those 3 touchdowns in the last 3 games, showing that they are at least looking for him, and he's been positioned to score. So check him out. And tight end you should consider adding Adam Trotman, playing very good football, had a really good game against Philly. He was actually the only bright spot in that game for the Saints. They just didn't play well enough to win. They got blown out, okay? And that was very much unexpected. But Philly has been playing much better football as of late. So he had 5 receptions, 58 yards, and 1 touchdown, which is really good for someone early on in the season you were considered dropping. Now, in a 2 tight end league, didn't drop him. But in a redraft, I did. And in a dynasty, I also kept him on my roster. And it's paying off. I didn't have him in a redraft league, but most of you get the drift. Early on in the season, he just wasn't playing well enough to hold a roster spot on your team. But now he is. And if it's a 2 tight end league, he's someone you should add because you have tight ends who are out due to injuries. And it's a 2 tight end league, so you want that security of, hey, one of my guys can't go, or one of my guys is not playing well, and Trotman is going to play well for your team. He's starting to show more consistency. So he's rostered in 7% of Yahoo leagues, 5.7% of ESPN leagues, and over 70% of sleeper leagues, which means he is available. He is a bright spot for That's its offense right now. Obviously, they don't have a lot with Thomas and Kamara out. Both of those guys are out. Those are pretty much their offense. Okay, so when you don't have your top dogs on offense, you have to find other players to help win. And Trotman, obviously they didn't win, but now Trotman, he has shown to be a nice up and coming young tight end, especially in a dynasty league. I can't stress this enough, dynasty league, because once the Saints are at full force next season, he's going to be a part of what they do on the offensive side. It may take him a few games, but trust, he's going to be much better next season. Okay, so again, dynasty league, please snatch him up so you have him on your bench for the future. Redraft, if you don't have the tight end that's playing well or tight ends that are out, then he is somebody who should be able to help your squad going forward. And that is what it's all about. Identifying players who can help you week to week. All right, y'all. Make sure you hit that like button. Later on in the week, I will be dropping start sits for week 12. And I will give you a bit more players you should consider adding based on Monday Night Football Giants, my lovely Giants, at Tampa. All right, y'all. Y'all have a great week. Peace.